Hello, everyone. I am so thrilled to initiate a dialogue for 1000 Reasons for Feeling Awe with the delightful Amrit Sandhu. As a globally recognized speaker, Amrit is not only the host of a successful podcast, but also the founder of the Inspired Evolution. His credentials include a certification from Eckhart Tolle's esteemed School of Awakening, as well as being master certified trainer for Mind Valley in both Australia and India. As an ambassador for both the Inspired Evolution and Mind Valley, Amrit frequently conducts enlightening keynotes, seminars, and workshops across the United States, Europe, Asia, and Australia. And for me, this is a great source of delight to have this opportunity to be speaking with you today. Amrit.
Oh, Shai, if I'm honest, I'm melting hearing you read out something even about me. I love your work so dearly. It is an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me here, brother. It is an absolute pleasure.
Brother, I love it. Yes. So as brothers who share the awe at the beauty of and mystery of life and this existence, I would like to start by asking you, as you know, this project is based on me inviting dear interviewees to choose their own specific reason for feeling awe, for being in awe in the face of life, the universe, and so on, based on their experience of life and their expertise. Now, I know that there are, for awe-inspired individuals, there are usually millions of reasons for feeling awe. But what would be our gateway today? What would be your chosen reason?
Yeah, there was a particular moment. Is that what you're asking about? The particular moment that I felt the most awe that sort of brought us into, that I wanted to bring to the table today. There are, as you mentioned, so many in the inspired life that one would want to bring. But I think the one that probably rings with the richest vibrancy, touch wood. I'm a bit nervous to share it because it's very dear to my heart. But vulnerability is always a good place to go in these things, especially because it's you. So there was a very, I remember when I proposed to my wife, touch wood, that particular day, how it all happened, the series of events that led to me asking her to marry me. Touch wood. There's a lot in our story, how we first met, etc. But conscious that I have to pick one moment. So the one reason for feeling awe was just the signs and the synchronicities and the trust and all the unfoldings of me marrying my wife and me asking her to marry me. Yeah.
So first of all, she's very fortunate that this is your one reason for feeling awe. It's
touch wood. I'm very lucky, touch wood, I would say. I joke that I put the ring on her finger before she realized what was going on. No, touch wood. Very lucky to have such a beautiful partner.
So let me start by asking you, because of course we are using this reason as something that could inspire our listeners and viewers. So my question is, could you bring us closer to this kind of to this kind of occasion? What was the source of awe in these
absolutely
special circumstances?
if it's okay, I'd like to share the story. So thank you so much. So I had known my wife for about 9 years before we got married. So I really made sure. I'm joking, but we never really saw the point of, well, marriage really, because were we were a bit new agey, I guess, if you look at it that way. Yeah, like I was always ready to make a commitment, but for my partner and herself, she was just like, hey, I make the choice every morning to wake up next to you. You know, I don't need the sort of old system of, bondage that comes with sort of a signed certificate of marriage or whatever. So it was interesting that, we never really felt compelled to really get married in the first place. I was hoping that, one day we'd make a commitment, and then one of the things that started coming closer to us was this idea that we were going to have kids. And my son is now 2, touch wood. But one of the things that was the Inspired Evolution is all about, breaking social taboos. But one of the big social taboos was that being Indian and having kids outside of wedlock, in our culture, it's a bit of a disgrace on the parents. Now, I know that's old school thinking, but that's kind of how the Indian culture sees it, even to this day, a little bit. Quite traditional in that sense. And so for our parents' sake, at the very least, we were of the opinion that, we are looking to potentially start a family, and that maybe, we should maybe at some point get married. I don't think we agreed that we couldn't have kids outside of wedlock. So there was this event that had to happen before we potentially had kids. And for the longest time, I knew exactly how I was going to propose to my wife. Now, I've had you on the show, so please don't take this the wrong way. But one of my ideal guests to have on the Inspired Evolution podcast was an artist named Nako. He's this incredible musician, and his songs are actually my favorite songs. And there's many stories as to like the synchronicities and the aura I feel through his music. But long story short, I was hoping that one day when I was ready to propose to my wife, he would be part of the proposal. And I'll just run you through my dream proposal, what my dream proposal was. Full caveat, this is not exactly what happened. So my dream proposal was, my wife's favorite place in the world was in Amsterdam. There's this big park, right? I'm pretty sure it's called Vondelpark, in the middle of Amsterdam. And it's like, if you're going from one side of Amsterdam to the other, everybody goes through the park. There's people juggling, there's people doing like getting married. It's just it's kind of like Eden a little bit, right? So Vondelpark has this really beautiful vibe in the heart of Amsterdam. Amsterdam obviously being very liberal and very forward thinking. It's a really nice culture and a space. And so we're in Vondelpark. This is my dream. And my wife and I have been, having a great time traveling Europe. It's one of our favorite, European summers are just, as you know, being from that part of the world, just there's something special about them. And we walk past this tree, and next to this tree is Nako Bear playing a song. And the song is particularly to his pies. It's called Your Feet. I'm probably butchering the French version of it, but the song's called Your Feet. And he's playing this song, and it's about how your feet found me, and I'm so grateful for your feet and the path that they walk in this life, right? That's the theme of the song. And she's like, she has this moment where she turns around and she goes, oh my God, that's Nako just playing in Vondelpark. And I'm like, yeah, that's our favorite song. And she's like, yeah. And then I point to the sky, and then it just says, will you marry me? This was my dream proposal. So the sky, with the airplane saying, yes. Will you marry me? Our favorite artist sort of playing in our favorite place in the sky. And yeah, this was my dream. And my ambition with the Inspired Evolution podcast for quite a while was to get Nako onto the show so that I could eventually ask him to see if, there was some way I could reimburse him for his time, or if he was ever going to be in Amsterdam to do a gig. Can I synchronize this? Can I make it happen? And it just never really eventuated. And it, a year had passed, 2 years passed, 3 years passed. And I started getting a little bit anxious, I would say. It was like, oh, we're family planning. I haven't proposed. I don't really know what a proposal. I've got this dream proposal, and I don't really want a second-rate proposal. Like, you only get to propose to the love of your life, touch wood, once. And so I was like, okay, what are we going to do? So one of the things I realized early is like whenever it happens, I should have a ring. So I, purchased the ring and I had the ring burning a hole in my pocket for I think at least 2 years, if I'm honest with you. I just had this ring just sitting in my pocket waiting for the narco synchronicity to eventuate and come through. And, the universe, I believe, will deliver. And it came to quite some, it didn't end up happening. And we were actually traveling there's a whole story how we ended up in Brazil, but we've been to Brazil a few times. And there's a beautiful music teacher there. His name's Carioca. And Carioca means Brazilian guy, loosely, man from Brazil. But this guy, he's a musician and he makes Brazilian music and he's phenomenal. And he's a very dear brother. And he makes incredible music. And so he was Kay's first music, like proper guitar teacher. And he was actually what inspired me to pick up the guitar. And so we were going to music retreats at his land in Brazil every year. And then I had the ring in my pocket and I kind of knew that we were getting to a point where, with women and their bodies and, there's this, I don't know if this is real, but science says, so let's see, but before the age of 35, you kind of want to have your kids because it becomes much harder to conceive for the woman after the ages of 35, right? So we're conscious that there's this bit of biological deadline within which I've got to, propose to my wife before so that we can have some kids. And there's like this real universal pressure that's starting to build. And Nako isn't appearing. So I've got the ring in my pocket and we're going away for, I think, the third time to see Carioca in Brazil. And he's got this beautiful retreat, which is called Ciranda. It's this beautiful, it means circle of children in Portuguese. It's a beautiful, there's an acre of land and they only inhabit 1% of it. There's a beautiful music maloca outdoors. I love these guys. They've got like $100,000 sound system in the middle of the forest. So you can, when they press record, you can hear the monkeys and the forest and like the Atlantic rainforest birds and everything. It's just a really beautiful, lush space to be. Touch wood, very privileged. It's even more Eden than Vondel Park. Really, it's this really incredible place. And I remember on the musical retreats, there's these overnight, like we'll sit and through the retreat, we'll make music and there's people from all over the world that come together. And the concept of the music retreat is basically Amrit will bring a song, my wife will bring a song, everyone will bring a song that they want to learn and share. And we each form the band, like a 20, 25 piece band to each person's song. And we learn the different instruments, different musicalities. It's a really great experience. It's probably one of the best experiences of my life. So much so we kept going back. And so I had this idea, there's always a closing sort of retreat that happens there's a closing sort of ceremony to the end of everything. It's like, okay, this is the end of, 2 weeks you've been here learning all these songs, and then one after another we perform the songs to each other. It's got an incredible energy to it because you really bond through music. And I just said, you know what, we're here. I've got a ring. And I can just feel it. I think this is going to be the time I propose. And I remember there's a photographer, like a guy with a photography film guy there with this incredible setup, and I was like, perfect. Can you please film the proposal, etc., etc. And he's like, yep. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we'll propose here. And at the end of this big retreat, everyone's sitting in a circle. Someone's got a djembe, someone's got a cajon, guitar, shakers, music, big drum. Everybody's in a circle. And I asked Carioca, I said, dear brother, can the last song at the retreat be a song that I sing, that we sing together, me and my wife? And at the end of the song, can I propose to her? And he was like, oh, B-boys, yes. Like, that's how he talks. He's like, yes, absolutely. We would totally do this. And I'm like, sure, perfect. So he's on board. Everybody's on board. The night comes. I'm super anxious. I've got the ring in my pocket. Literally, I've reminded Carioca. I'm like, hey, I'm about to propose to my wife. Like, let's not forget that I'm going to do this. And he's like, yes, absolutely. You go, son. I was like, thanks, brother. And so the last song comes on. I go to sing. And just as I go to sing the song, and the song was going to be Love Is My Religion by Ziggy Marley. I don't know if your audience knows it. Hopefully they do. If you haven't, please go check it out. It goes,
I will have to check it
religion.
out. Yes.
Love is my religion. Love is my religion. And my line was going to be, my love, my religion, will you marry me? Right? That was my touch wood. I'm very cheesy, if you haven't already told. So that was going to be my line. And at the moment when the time came, I picked up the mic to sing the song, and Karaoke is facilitating the retreat. And he looked at me and he goes, no. And I can feel the ring burning a hole in my leg. and I'm looking at Karaoke, and everybody in the audience is looking at me, like everybody is like, as part of the retreat, is looking at me, and I'm looking at Karaoke, and I'm like, no, this is my moment. And he's like, no. And I'm like, and because it was his retreat, I sort of like curled into my own little shell, and I was just like, okay, I guess this isn't the moment. And after the retreat, like everybody, and my wife came up to me, she's like, is everything okay? You seem really like perplexed, like things are kind of off, like, you okay? And I was like, okay, let's go to the waterfall. I'll go to the waterfall. Let's go talk at the waterfall. And then I was trying to get her to go to the waterfall so I could propose there. And then she was like, but I'm really hungry. We've been up playing music all night. And I was like, oh, this is just, and then she got to the kitchen, and then everyone started talking to her, and all the energy started to dissipate. And I was just like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, this is just not happening. This is just not flowing. And I'm like just questioning like everything. I'm just like, how is this really happening right now? I'm internally devastated. There is a big part of me that trusts the universe, but in these moments it's really, 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 really challenged. Yeah. I'm just like, and afterwards I went up to Karaoke, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, I was meant to propose. And he goes, oh, I forgot. I thought you were meant to sing. You were asking to sing one more song, and that was it. I could feel the energy was gone. I was just like, I was meant to sing one more song, and I was meant to propose. And he was like, are you still staying for another 4 days? And I was like, yeah, we are staying for another 4 days. He's like, okay, we're gonna do another musical performance, and at the end of that I was just like, karaoke, man, come on. Anyway, I left licking my wounds, but I was like, okay, cool, perfect, there's another opportunity. And as it turns out, that 4 days later it comes around, and I try to learn the song that I actually wanted, because I'd already sung the song that I wanted to propose to, but I couldn't propose. So that moment was gone. So I had to come up with another song, and I was like, what song am I going to learn to sing at this retreat? And I was like, I can't play the guitar that well, but there's this song called Two Spies that I wanted Nako to sing in Vondel Park. That's been my dream this whole time. And I was like, maybe I'll learn how to sing that song and play it on the guitar. Anyway, so I'm learning how to play it on the guitar. And because it's a musical workshop, everybody's looking at me and they're like, dude, you are really not playing this song very well. What are you doing? And I was like, look, and I told a couple of the brothers, I was like, look, come here. This is what's going to happen. At the end of the next retreat, I have to propose to Kay. I was meant to propose to Kay a couple of days ago. And I just, now I have to learn this whole new song in like 2 days, which I can't play. And they're like, bro, we'll play with you. You just sing. And I was like, okay. So long story short, we practiced together for like day and night, hiding from my wife at this retreat, which is a very intimate retreat. There's only like 20 of us from all over the world, right? We've been together for like 3 weeks already, hiding from my wife, learning this song. And we get to the retreat. And at the end of this retreat, I sing the song, which is the Nako song, which is Two Spies, Your Feet and How They Found Me. And as I'm singing this song, the brothers are playing the guitar, and it is just the most magical moment, touch wood, of how everything has just come together. And I get down on a knee and I propose, and she said yes, thankfully. Touch wood.
Imagine that.
Incredible.
Yes.
And karaoke's flawed. Karaoke's there facilitating a retreat. There's a lot of love in the air, touch wood, and yeah, we're obviously very smitten. We're now engaged. This is all happening. And the piece about awe, thank you all for listening in. I know it's a long story and I really appreciate your patience. The piece about awe is, you'll remember, it was always meant to be that song, Twas Pies. I was forced by nature to miss the song, to miss the moment, to be forced into the song. And it wasn't meant to be Narco, it was meant to be Karaoke, who's a massive mentor to us, who means even more to us than Narco ever possibly could, touch wood. Even though we love Narco's music, Karaoke gifted us music and continues to open that gift for us. And we walk out of the massive outdoor Maloka and you look up in the sky and there are two massive, massive rainbows in the sky. And it was like, she definitely said yes to marry me, and it was meant to say in the sky, will you marry me? Touch wood. And so in that particular moment, especially, and when you asked me about awe, it was just all the bits that come up in the way about me trusting the process. Oh, things are going wrong. Oh no, what's going to happen? When is this going to happen? And then in that affirmation from, we've never seen a double rainbow at Surrender. Touch wood, in our time there. We've been there many years. Everybody was remarking, we've got this beautiful photo of the entire retreat under the two rainbows as our memory on our wall. And it's just, it's in those moments where you're just completely floored, touch wood, at just what the universe is doing.
So you're talking here about this ability to allow the universe to show us the right moment? Is this
the synchronicities really blow me away. The synchronicities really blow me away when there are signs from the universe that really affirm your path, like the two rainbows in the sky, all cinching into me singing the right song, me having to get out of my own way, and also just the lessons that we learned along the way, which was like, every time I thought something was perfect, I was forcing it with my mind, right? But then it's like, there's a better way, but you need to trust and let go and surrender. So there's a lot of lessons that I got from that awe, but the big part that invoked the awe was the synchronicities and the signs from the universe. And I find if I slow down, things like rainbows, things like, you're thinking about peace and you see a bird flying over with a twig in its mouth and you're like, it's not a dove, but looks like peace, and these signs that come your way, I find really awe-inspiring. Touch wood.
I see. So you say that there is a certain discrepancy or a gap between our thinking mind that thinks that something that the right moment has come, right? And then there is a certain cosmic dimension or a certain timing that we are unaware of. Is that so?
Perfectly. Yeah, I really think so. I'm not sure about like if it is all destined to be a certain way or not. I think that's a really big question that everyone has always asked, and we haven't really gotten very close to the answer. But I think there is a lot of opportunity for us to surrender the mind and trust the signs and flow more in life. And I think more awe begets that flow than sort of pushing with the mind does, I feel. Just my humble perspective.
So what would you say this moment that you were experiencing there after years of trying to get married,
yeah,
doing your best to reach that precious moment? What does this moment reveal to you about the nature of the mysteries of life? Could you talk a little about it?
Yeah, it's really interesting because there is I had to have some vision of what my ideal proposal looked like. Like I had to have some vision, and whether that vision was part heart, part brain, like it was my dream, right? And when we say dream, sometimes we dream with our head, but really I feel like when it's a pure dream, we kind of dream with our heart. So the dream proposal was like, it was from the heart really, and there was no way that it was really ever going to happen in some ways, but part of me was like continuing to dream, like maybe, you know, it could happen. And then going on my way to architect it a little bit, you know, with my head. So then allowing the head to sort of apply itself as a tool to facilitate the dream in some way, you know. And that looked like me making sure I got a ring, and then me, you know, making sure that the team was trying to reach out to Nako to try and podcast him, and then you know, there was kept getting back a no, which was interesting, you know. I still to this day don't believe it should have been a no, but it was a no, you know. And so yeah, there's like allowing the head to sort of follow the heart a little bit, and then going, okay, I've had this pure like this vision of the heart, and then I've tried to integrate it with my mind. And then the mind has this propensity to try and want to do the best that it can do. And it really has this propensity. And then you start to go along and it's like, oh, it's not working. And then you start to question yourself to the point where the mind has the ability even to question the heart and its dream and going, that dream was never possible. Why'd you make me dream that? You know? And so now you're in this loop of like self-criticism, self-analysis, which is not like, you know, not fueling the purity that was initially there in the first place. Right? Touch wood. And then learning that actually it was really useful to have my mind sort of pull me forward, but then also learning where to let go, you know, and then allow more than the heart, just the fabric of everything to sort of guide, and just trust that actually when the moment's meant to be, the moment's meant to be, and you'll be there. And the vision that you had, your heart, your mind, it's all sort of stacking on top of each other. And the universe and its blessings, touch wood, will all come together to support you time and time again when you need it, where you are, every single time. And it's a reminder for me as I'm sharing this with you that that's probably, well, not even probably, it's actually happening every moment, right? Like we are the pinnacle of our ancestors. Like our ancestors, if they are an arrow, they've all left behind the legacy that is us. Like every single moment begets the next moment, and here we are as the biggest miracle that ever existed. Is just, you know, and somehow the universe is supporting us in existence and everything. It's just like, I'm just me. Like, what's the big deal? And at the same time, you are everything and connected to it all. That's good.
Yes, that's wonderful. So I would say that that at that moment you didn't only propose to your wife, but also to your future wife, but also to the universe, right? Because it's a sort of marriage with the universe, with its universal timing, with its intelligence, with and being able to surrender to this kind of union.
Yeah, it's a profound way that you've articulated that, because in the Sikh faith, which is how we got married, I'm Sikh by faith, and in the faith we have 4 rounds around our holy text where we walk around the holy text, and each round has its own symbology. And as you get through the rounds, you're actually marrying yourself to God more than you are the other person. Like, obviously you're marrying the other person, but the first few rounds about you and family, and then as you go through the rounds, the last rounds are like dedicated to, this is an opportunity for me to recognize what union feels like, but then also what divine union feels like. And this is a vehicle, touch wood, for us to grow and learn how to actually be unified as one. Yeah, touch wood. So it's a tall order, but it's, you know, this is the ethos. And yeah, I love the question. Yeah.
So how do you recommend that we follow this kind of path of awe? How can we is that even something one can prepare for, because it's something that eludes or transcends our own expectations, right? It's not that we can prepare ourselves for this moment of awe. It was just exactly when you were refused over and over again by the universal timing. But is there a way for us to?
I think there are. Yeah, and when I look into the story, and maybe this is just the way I look at things, but I think there are at least 5 ingredients that it's taught me and potentially people can take away if you're listening into this episode. The first one is don't be afraid to dream, right? Like, I think absolutely you should dream. Like, it's an absolute gift that you're alive as a human and we have this ability to imagine. Like, what? The fact that we can imagine something is quite remarkable. When you just pause to reflect, it's like imagination. And Einstein said this, and at some point you've got to quote Einstein. I think you said, you said that in our podcast. At some point you've got to quote Einstein. Yes. Sooner or later. And it's just the fact that he said, imagination is one of the most, and he was comparing it to something, I've forgotten what he was comparing it to, but imagination is just so, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible that we have the gift to imagine. So to dream and to envision it's quite mystical. And I think a lot of times as a coach, what I find is people are afraid actually to do that. A lot of the time is to put a vision out there, because then if they speak their vision, a lot of people actually have a vision, but if they speak their vision or write it down or communicate it to someone, there's almost like this borderline anxiety that comes in on the other side. It's like, oh, now I can only fall short. And it's, it's kind of true. Like my vision with like how I wanted to propose to Nako, propose to my wife with Nako around. Great moment. Freudian slip. Pardon me, my kooky sense of humor. Yeah, so I wanted to propose with Nako there, and that having that idea of like there was a dream and giving it, and I didn't really share it with anybody. I just shared it with myself, but I had, I kept reaffirming it and kept reaffirming it, and it definitely did pull me forward to the point where, even today when I can speak to you, like me having written in the sky, like me forcing to write in the sky, will you marry me, versus the universe and God, however you want to describe it, putting up 2 rainbows, which is complete nature doing its thing, is so much better. And so a vision is incredible. And one of the things I find myself saying in my coaching sessions is if you shoot for the stars, you might just land on the moon. Yeah. And in this story, I feel like I was shooting for the moon, but I actually landed on the stars, so do shoot, do have a vision. So I think that's the big number one is give yourself a vision. Don't be afraid to have a vision. You don't have to share it with the world. And in fact, sometimes as a coach, I say don't share it with too many people, because you actually get dopamine hits when you say you're doing something, but you're not actually taking any action. Yeah. So your brain and mouth thinks it's taken action by saying it's doing something, but it actually has done nothing. So it's a total hack. So if you can actually keep your vision close to yourself, but affirm it, it's actually really useful. The second thing that I took away was I pat myself on the back, touch wood, and I invite you guys to do the same, is be prepared. Like if I didn't have the ring, it would have been the most beautiful moment and it would have just swept right past me. Yeah. So preparedness is a total thing. So, and not with like forensic anxiety, like it doesn't have to be like that, but be prepared, like it's the reason we slow down, take the time to do things. If there's something that's, coming your way, even if it's in the future, like even planning for your retirement, I know that sounds much more clunky than what we've been discussing, but, financially setting yourself up, be prepared, these things matter. You can prepare. With the best of your abilities. So I think there's a lesson in there for me to be prepared, so that you can make the most of a moment when it appears to you. Can you imagine if we were coming to Australia and then I was like, okay, now I've got to design a ring and get it made up, and it's like, I got to do this within 3 weeks, and it's like, jeweler says it takes 3 months, and it's like, I can't do this now, and it's like, be prepared. You're going to propose at some point, this person's right for you. Get a ring. All my mates, they're like, is this the one? And they're like, yeah, this is the one. And I'm like, when are you going to propose? They're like, I don't know, I haven't thought about the proposal. I was like, get a ring. And they're like, what? And I was like, mate, the moment might just appear. Just get a ring. And a couple of mates, they got a ring and they're like, oh, now I started, and the ring has its own energy, right? Now they're starting to think and like prepare, and moments are starting to appear, and they're starting to notice the moment because of your preparedness. Yeah, it's like the warrior. Yeah, you'd much rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in the wall, right? So an opportunity to be the warrior, take the time to be prepared. The other big piece for me was surrender. Yeah, which is it's the most painful piece. I know when I'm saying it, I've still got a lot of work when it comes to surrender. But third point would be surrender. It's like because there was so much self-beration, like even like, oh, I couldn't do it the narco way. And then I got to Carrick, and then Carrick was like, no, like don't propose. And it's like, that was my moment. It's like, you told me not to propose. Carrick! And then he's just like, it's okay, people, try again. And I was like, that was the song. And then it was not meant to be that song, right? It was meant to be the song I had always envisioned. Because that song I'd been carrying the frequency of my proposal in that song for so long, touch wood, you know? So yeah, just learning to surrender. And I think if I called that point 3, I think 3B, we call that 3A. 3B would be to get back up. Yeah, to get back up again and again. Yeah, within surrender, there's got to be surrender and trust are two sides to the same coin. And this is what a lot of these synchronistic or inspiring moments keep teaching me. Because when they come, they were never planned. Like you said, you can't plan for them in some way. But when they come perfectly architected, even better than you could have even imagined. And you're like, what? And one of the things that does is without you even trying, it cracks you open to trust more. It's like, can you trust that even when things are going wrong, they're cracking open in just the right way for you to get the yolk of the egg out of it, you know, like that's exactly how it's meant to be. And that, like, trust and surrender are the two sides to the same coin, is what I've had to learn. Is if I can't surrender, it's because I'm holding on and I'm not trusting. Yeah. And if I can't trust, there's definitely not going to be any surrender. So my inability to surrender is directly linked to my inability to trust. Right. So if I can trust more, I'll be able to surrender more. Right. Now I know that is a big call. And, you know, my heart goes out to people that touch wood, you know, like they're, you know, facing, like some of my coaching clients, they're facing terminal illness, you know, and it's really hard, touch wood, to trust in some instances. But, you know, it's ultimately we're all going to go, and learning to surrender, that's the final test, I believe, in many ways. So the ability to cultivate trust and surrender, I think, is fundamental. And in that, while you can, and you've got the blessing of life, touch wood, get back up. Yeah, don't like take your hits. Like when Karika was like, propose again, I was like, no. You know, I could be stubborn. And Karika was like, you know, just try again in a few days. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That was my moment. I'm never going to propose again. I ruined it. I could be like that. I know me, right? I could have totally been that guy. And I was like, no, you know, it's like, well, I definitely have to propose. How are we going to do it? Okay, it's going to be that song, you know, and like sitting there practicing and butchering on the guitar. And the blessing of other brothers showing up to support me in that moment, you know, it meant so much to me and them. So get back up, you know, so 3A, surrender, 3B, get back up to surrender again and again, and trust the process, surrender and trust. And the fifth point, I would say, even though I went 3A, 3B, yeah, is to slow down. Is to slow down, really. Not, you can, like, I know when I say that, it's a fast-paced world, 21st century, it's almost like 20% anxiety is baked into the rhythm of everything. Totally acknowledge that. But there's moments where even when I sit on a park bench and I look down at the ground and I'm just looking at grass, and it's like, okay, I'm looking at grass. And it takes me a good 30 to 60 seconds for my whole system to go. And now I can see individual ants. I can see the life that's happening at that level in the grass. I can actually notice things. Before it was just grass. But when I slow down, I can actually see things as they are a little bit better. Yeah. You increase the fidelity of the moment when you slow down. And so the synchronicities are always there. The signs are always there. But oftentimes I find, and I'm guilty of this even now, I'll put my hand up and say, yes, I'm a culprit. I'm rushing past the signs.
Mm.
You know, and I see this a lot in my coaching as well. Like stress is a sign in your life that you need to recalibrate, and people are just blowing past it again and again. One more coffee, push a little bit more, just another 6 months of this, and I'll be all right. 6 months turns into like 6 years, and it's like I'm still doing the same thing. I never got off the hamster wheel, and it's like it's stress. Listen to it. It's a sign. Slow down. What is your stress actually saying to you? You know, what are the signs around you saying? You keep seeing the same numbers appear. What does that mean? What are the signs? You know, you've been thinking of a particular thing and it keeps showing up in your field. How does that, obviously with the internet and the algorithms, they know you really well, so it's getting a bit treacherous, that space. But even in the world, you know, it's like, you know, something as random as I've been contemplating animal totems and I keep seeing the fox. What? You know? What does that mean? Does it mean anything? Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but you're slowing down, you're pondering, you're contemplating. And I believe, it doesn't have to be where you believe, but because you are the universe looking in on itself, curiosity is a fundamental tenet of the human experience, right? Which I guess is the seed of all, right? Because you get curious and then you're trying to look in on yourself and then you see the majesty of what you are and you're like, oh my God, I'm the universe. Like, as if that's not the most awe-inspiring thing in the world, right? Touch wood. And in there, taking a moment to slow down, to connect to those moments, gives you the ability to connect to the curiosity of who you are, what you're put here to do, what's going on in the world. But if you don't slow down for curiosity, you might miss the moment. You might miss the opportunity for all. Like when I walk out of the temple, if I didn't look up to the sky, it's pretty hard to miss a double rainbow. But I could have just rushed off, picked up my phone. Obviously, it was a phoneless retreat. Right. Again, an invitation to slow down. But I could have just jumped onto my phone and just started doing a bunch of things, sending emails, blah, 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 blah. Totally missed the moment. Yeah. And that memory will stay, touch wood, with me forever. And I've, you know, touch wood, have the blessing of hopefully inspiring a few people into awe with the memory now here, you know, thanks to Shai and all of you listening in. So yeah, take the time to slow down.
Wow, that was absolutely inspiring. These 5 pieces of advice are so precious. So if I perhaps could summarize in one sentence what I'm gathering from everything that you've been saying is that awe in this context is like a meeting point between human dreaming and human vision and cosmic timing.
Yeah, that leaves me in awe every single time.
Yeah. And everything that's in between, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for this meeting.
Oh, Shai. The pleasure is totally mine.
It's been really intimate and engaging. Thank you so much, Amrit.
Thank you so much, Shai. I absolutely love your work. And like I said, it's an absolute honor to be here thank you so much for having me to share a little bit about me and my life with everybody. Thank you. And touch wood. Hopefully everybody leaves a little bit, you know, in awe and inspired to just cultivate more awe in their lives. I absolutely love what you're doing. And we'll continue to champion it in every way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.